Long-time viewers of this channel, the OG Tips and Tricks crew, will be aware that the Allen & Heath Xone 92 is my actual nemesis. Sometimes I forget how much I despise it, and then I accidentally play on one, as I did a few weeks ago, and the hatred immediately comes flooding back. And yet, I'm happy to admit that this makes me something of an outlier in the overall DJ world, as I'm confident in saying that the 92 is the most popular DJ mixer of all time. I'm sure that more Pioneer DJM mixers have been sold collectively in the 20 years since the 92's release, but when we're talking about a single model of mixer, nothing comes close. Allen & Heath themselves have made some revisions to that original 92 template this year, which seems to address many of my issues with it, and hopefully they'll get around to sending me one of those at some point. And let's not forget they already released the 96, which is a mixer I really like, although apparently it's not close enough to the 92 for fans of that to be truly happy. But in 2025 we also have another player in the game, Union Audio, helmed by Andy Rigby-Jones, the engineer who was behind the 92 design in the first place. Since his work at Allen & Heath, he's designed the Master Sounds range of mixers and the Play Differently units with Richie Hawtin, and now Union Audio have their own range of high-end mixers. That includes the Orbit rotary line and the Elara.6, a 4-channel fader mixer which I reviewed last year. Today, we're looking at their latest release, the Elara.6, a mixer which answers the question, if Andy Rigby-Jones was engineering the Xone 92 in 2025, what would that look like? Well, let's find out. First of all, I'm going to address Union Audio directly. Guys, your website is a complete failure as an information resource. I head over there to find out more details about the Elara.6 and the information provided is okay, I guess, but it doesn't tell even half the story of this mixer. Like, there's no mention of the front panel being machined from a billet of 4mm aluminium with a unique Cerakote ceramic-based coating, the wide use of Alps 16mm metal pots and switches, the phono preamps with a Butler front-end amplifier combining JFET and bipolar transistors, thin film resistors and close tolerance film capacitors. You know, all that geeky stuff which a lot of potential Elara.6 buyers might want to learn about. The only reason I'm aware of all this stuff myself is that I've watched your Elara.6 showcase video on YouTube. That breaks it all down very well, but the information flies past you, and I just think you're wasting a huge opportunity to explain just how much attention has been paid to the detail of this mixer, as I couldn't find any of this info on your website itself. So sort it out. Pulling back from the details and looking at the big picture, the Elara.6 is a 4+2 channel club mixer. You have 4 main channels, each switchable between phono and line level, and 2 more channels which can be used as aux returns, line level inputs, or for microphones. Street price is around €2,800, so it's well up there in terms of cost. A few hundred cheaper than a DJM V10, similar to the DJM A9, €1,000 more than a Xone 96, and almost double the price of the 92 Mark II. In defence of the Elara though, it is not mass-produced. It's handmade in the southwest of the UK, and so has more in common in many ways with boutique rotary mixers and the like. And it certainly feels like an incredibly premium product. From that aforementioned thick machined top panel to the knurled aluminium knobs and metal pots everywhere, the Elara.6 feels like the kind of mixer that you'll be passing down to your grandkids, just incredibly well engineered throughout. The only thing about the design which gave me a little concern from a usability perspective was the whole black on black colour scheme. In use it never became an actual problem, but in general I would prefer a little more contrast for use in low light. I will note that Union Audio have offered alternate colour options for a number of their other mixers, so perhaps these will also come to the Elara.6 in time. Looking at connectivity, there's plenty going on here. Input-wise, there are 2 pairs of RCA inputs on the 4 main channels for phono and line, and the return channels have XLRs for mics and balance jacks for line level inputs, although you can use unbalanced sources with those as well. Then in terms of outputs, you have the 2 aux sends again on balanced jacks, as well as a master insert with a single pair of jacks. Master output is on balanced XLRs, as is the booth output, which lots of people will appreciate, but there is also Mix 2 on balanced jacks, so if you take the mixer out somewhere which only has jack cables for the booth, you'll be fine. And finally, there's a dedicated record output on unbalanced RCAs. The power supply is internal with an IEC connector. Union Audio themselves often go down the external power supply route with their products, but in this case, with a mixer likely to be used in venues, I think an internal one is an eminently sensible choice. One really notable area of the Elara.6 is the faders. I can't remember the last time I saw a mixer with an optional rotary kit supplied by the manufacturer themselves, the DJM800 maybe, but that's what we have here. You can order the mixer with either line or rotary faders pre-installed, and both versions cost the same. If you decide you want access to both options, then you can buy the other kit as an add-on for around €350, which sounds like a lot, but actually when you break it down is pretty good value. You get 4 high-quality rotary pots or faders, another inner fader which is worth about $100 in itself, and another panel made from that pricey billet aluminium. Switching over from one panel to the other is incredibly easy. Remove 2 bolts and the panel comes out. There's one connector to swap and then you put the other panel in. It takes all of 2 minutes at most. There is no up fader curve adjust on the Elara.6, but unlike on the 92, it has a pretty linear curve as standard, which works well for me with both the fader and rotary options. And of course, I've never met an inner fader which I didn't like, so that's great to have, and will make open format DJs happy should they encounter the mixer in a club. Right, let's run you through the functionality here on the Elara.6. It looks kind of busy, right? It does. And there's a lot going on. Once you understand really what everything does, I don't think it's quite as complicated as it looks, but it is still fairly complicated. We'll start with the faders. And a definite gold star is, of course, the inner fader mini here, which, if we set that to Y, there we go. I've got it set to cut at the moment. You can pass through or have a mix curve, but because this fader panel is easily removable, so you could replace the rotaries with the line faders or vice versa, you can easily access the back of this inner fader and really dial it into your own exact taste, and I love that. This whole panel just pulls out really simply. Moving on to the rotaries themselves, I have to say I'm not quite as in love with this as I thought I was going to be. A couple of reasons for that. Firstly, they're pretty close together. Like, you're kind of cramped there, and they're also quite close to the crossfader, like not terribly so, but fairly so. I would have been happier if they were kind of a bit further up. That being said, I would still choose the rotary option myself, because I love the idea of having these smooth rotaries for those long blends and still having a dope inner fader there as well. That makes me happy. I do love the machining with the inset VU meters into the body itself. I think that's wonderful. Lots of nice little touches like that on this fascia. Moving on up, we get to the Q circuit. We've got 2 Q circuits, so we've got 1 and 2. Channel 2 is, your Q2 rather, is fairly minimal. You've got activation buttons for each channel, and then you have a volume control with a single large jack in the bottom left. Q circuit number 1, you have a bit more going on. You've got small and large sockets. You have a Q master blend knob. You have then split Q as well. And you can choose pre or post EQ monitor path for that as well. So depending on your preference. So that one definitely, yeah, fully comprehensive. The second one, it's like a nice bonus, right? Then we have the XY switches. So these will assign the channel to the crossfader if we have the crossfader engaged. So there is the crossfader engaged, and I'm on the X side now. But it also does the analog processing as well. So even if you don't use the crossfader, you'll still need to assign. And of course, you can assign multiple channels at once to these processing units. We'll get to those, I think we'll come back to those in a minute. Before we do, let's keep going up the mixer. So we have the kind of signature Andy Rigby-Jones 4-band EQ. I believe he was the first person to do that on a DJ mixer. Back with the old Xone 62. So we have a low, and these aren't full kill, these are EQs, not kills. So we've got low, lower mids, upper mids, and then highs. Nice cut-off points. Great musical sounding EQ all around. You know, people love that 4-band EQ thing, and I do get why they do. Then we've got a trim control on each channel. Each channel is switchable between phono and line level inputs on the back. You have both on each channel. Then we have our aux send, so we've got aux 1, which is pre or post fader, aux 2, which is just post fader. And then we get to the return channels, which are kind of unique in themselves. So let's first of all send this, we'll send this post fader out to aux number 1. And because it's post fader, that means that if I cut the crossfader out or drop the rotary, we get those tails. I'm coming in, these are both switchable to mic or line, so I'm coming into aux number 2 on a mic here. Right, let's send this as a pre-fade send instead, so you can get an idea of the kind of frequency control of, just turn off the effect. So we have, again, we can assign this to the analog processing or indeed the crossfader with the X and Y. We have a low EQ, a high EQ, and then a sweepable parametric EQ for the mids. So we can cut or boost, and we can choose the frequency that we cut or boost. And this is something I first played with on the Play Differently Model 1 and Model 1.4, and I do love this. If you're the kind of DJ who has lots of stuff going on in the mix at once, you just want to pull out or just take away or boost a certain kind of frequency in one of your loops, then this is just, yeah, lovely. Gives you that control to kind of sweep through. And again, you've got a trim control, switchable between mic and line, and you have the pre and post fade send. Now, that's just one thing I will kind of warn you about a little bit. It is quite possible in a couple of different ways to get feedback loops going on this thing. Now, that's fine if you're doing it on purpose. So basically you're feeding a channel like back into itself through another thing. Like in my first take of this demo, I did that by mistake. It is very possible to do. So just be aware of that. Like, it's great if you want to do that. So you could assign this to the processing on this side, and you could also send it the aux out then to itself, and it's just, there are definitely ways to achieve a feedback loop. And as I say, if you're doing it by mistake, not a good thing. If you're doing it on purpose, a creative tool, of course, but just be aware. So I need to make sure before we start playing with this is not assigned over there and the sends are down. So here we go, we're assigned onto this audio processing unit here. Now, one thing I will point out, 0 crossing switches. In fact, let's just pull this down and we'll go back to the channel itself. So any clicking or popping you're hearing is just picked up by the microphone, it's not actually in the signal. 0 crossing switch, all good for me there. And we have the trademark Andy Rigby-Jones filter style, so we got the frequency, resonance control, low pass or high pass. Here's your low pass. Just sounds great. Super fat, super analog. Love it. This guy knows how to make a filter, right? He's been doing it a long time, and these sound awesome. Then we have two effects which okay, well the first one is definitely not an effect for me, let's put it like that, right? It's the drive control. So this basically clips the signal early, and then it has this kind of sidechain effect. So it basically does makeup gain on the signal. So you get this really distorted, clipped sound without actually doing any damage to anything because it's leveled off. You can see the LED flashing as it's doing that side chaining. Look, it's clever, it's cool, it ain't for me. Just not an effect I can't think of any time I'd ever want to use that. But I'm not a techno DJ, so, you know, the only thing I would say is I feel like that makeup gain from the sidechain could almost go a little bit further. Like, it does seem to almost pull it down a bit too much, because when you pull it back, the signal does get a fair bit louder again. But yeah, just not an effect for me. The other one is this width control, which I have yet to find a use for. Doesn't mean it's not cool, doesn't mean it doesn't have potential. Again, perhaps showing my limitations as a DJ, but basically it takes it from regular stereo at 12 o'clock, you go super wide with it, you go to mono, and I'll put on the screen now their description of how this works. But as I say, with the stuff that I play, I have yet to find really a use for that. But I feel like if you were playing synth through it, or maybe running like a 303 line through it, something like that, you could have some fun with this. You could be expanding things out. That kind of mid-side control. It's not a feature for me, but I dig it. Like, I dig it existing. And again, now you could send this analog processing, you could send this to the aux as well, so you can see it's actually coming back in. If I turn the aux down here, turn the aux up on this, and I can put my effects back on, and then you can affect the whole filtered add that drive. So again, I'm seeing the potential of this. It's just not, as I say, just not really a feature for me. Those bits of it anyway, these aren't for me. But the filter, fantastic. And I like the fact you can assign to the processing and also have kind of independent control of whether you're sending to the crossfader. I suspect a lot of DJs who buy this or use it in venues will not have any use for the crossfader, fair enough. And in that case, you can just disable that altogether and just rely on these, you know, use these as filters or whatever else you want to do. A couple more notes, of course, we have the Mix 1 and Mix 2 controls at the top. Again, nice inset, really clear level meters for the master. And then for the booth, we have the booth level and a high and low EQ on that as well. So yeah, as I said, lots to see here, lots to get your head around, but not perhaps as complex as it might appear at first glance. And overall, the feel of it is really nice. Like, this thing just feels so solid. Every knob, every slider, everything about this thing just feels super chunky, super tank-like. This is definitely what I would call a quality piece of kit. Before we wrap up, let's talk about sound. The Elara.6 is an all analog design and it sounds absolutely wonderful. The profile is largely flat with a marginal weighting towards the low end, which gives it a lovely sense of warmth down low, but there is nothing lost in clarity up top or in the mid detail. The phono preamps, I feel, are especially deserving of praise, with some of the most precise stereo separation I've heard in a DJ mixer. Get yourself a high quality cartridge and a well mastered piece of vinyl and you're in for an absolute treat. Where the Elara.6 also shines is when it comes to the summing performance. The mixer, whilst being very versatile, definitely has a design nod towards techno DJs and the like who run lots of tracks, loops and instruments at once, and with the Elara there's a tremendous sense of balance as you bring more things into the mix, with the mixer never sounding overwhelmed or oversaturated. And that applies with different types of sources too. Digital and analog sit together in a very satisfying way. Whenever I spend time with Union Audio mixers, I always come away with the impression that these guys really know how to tune them very precisely, like a mechanic might tune a car for a specific race. The Elara.6 is very much tuned for the club, and it's there where the mixer will truly shine. So there you go, my thoughts on the Elara.6. I'm very happy to say that this is far from being my nemesis as the OG92 was. A huge factor in that is the crossfader, to be honest, and I know that's not even a consideration for many potential buyers of this mixer. But the fact is, it's something which makes it far more usable for me and my open format DJ friends. It's not really fair to judge the Elara.6 purely as a 92 competitor though. Although it does share a lot in terms of layout and form factor, it's also very much its own beast with a very different and modern take on sound quality, sound balance and how you work with frequencies. It shares DNA with early Xones of course, but also with the Model 1, Andy's Master Sounds designs and other Union Audio products. And that stew all comes together very harmoniously in the Elara.6, making it a rather special feeling mixer overall. If you're looking for a club mixer which is about sound first and foremost without sacrificing features, then the Elara is a solid recommend from me. In the comments, let's talk about club mixers. Which ones make your heart sing or your smile disappear when you come across them in the booth? And what kind of features do you think are missing from current club mixers, which you'd love to see in the future? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beatsource Tech. If you liked it, be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss any future videos. And hey, if you haven't already, you can try Beatsource for free and join DJcity for just $10. All the links are down in the description. I'll see you next time!